everyone. I'm waiting just for a few minutes for more people to enter the room. We have a few people who had already said, yay, I'll be there. And now we hope to see you soon. I'm Siobhan. While we're getting to started, let me at least introduce myself. I'm Siobhan. I hope you can all hear me because I typically have done these on Zoom. This is the first time I'm trying to do it a live video with Facebook. So yeah, even though I'm a digital nomad, I'm not exactly a techie digital nomad. So we're just going to wait a few more minutes for some more to enter the room, and should be seeing these shortly. But since this is going to be recorded, I'm going to go ahead and at least start with some of the questions that people have sent in advance, or had posted in advance. And of course, the first one that most people ask is, how did you get started being a digital nomad? Okay, how did you start this life? And well, I first want to clarify that early on, I was somehow tagged. I said one of the interviews that I did tagged me as an unintentional digital nomad. And there was some unintention involved in the sense that when I started nomading, I didn't anticipate that I was really going to take all of my work on the road, so to speak, with me. But that is how it happened. But I don't think that spending almost a year of either selling, giving away, or trashing 30 years of my possessions in Dallas, Texas, to start this life as a home-free digital nomad is without intention. So there was a lot of intention to it. I've always loved traveling ever since I was a little one. I've spent a good portion of my life traveling. Literally, my first passport is a photograph of me at 3 months old. So that's how long I've been traveling. Most of that first few years, I lived between Belize, Central America, and Brooklyn, New York. My grandparents and my parents went back and forth. My mother remarried, went to live on a dairy farm in upstate Pennsylvania, and then went to college in Brooklyn, Maryland, and then after college came down to Texas. During this period of time, got married, and we had the wonderful experience of living in London for 2 years, about 25 years ago. And that was the second, I guess you could say my third introduction to, travel truly abroad as compared to Belize and Brooklyn. My first was when I was 13. Hey, hi Cheryl, nice to see you. How many countries have you been to? Oh yeah, that's a good question. As of today, I have now been to 68 countries. And of those, 36 were covered before I started Home Free Digital Nomad. And for those of you who are probably saying, what the heck is she talking about with this home free? What I mean, and I prefer to call myself home free as compared to homeless, because in March of 2020, I gave up my home here, a loft apartment in Dallas. And since then, I have been living where I land, is how I define it. Living where I land. And I rent wherever, whether it's hotel, Airbnb. I'm very much looking into trying house sitting next year. But that's how it's been. Of what I had left of the possessions that I just mentioned, the most precious are in a storage room here in Texas. I come back here to Dallas primarily for Medicare and affordable health care annual enrollment period. But getting back to travel, my first trip abroad was when I was 13. I went to Spain for 6 weeks for a Spanish language camp, you guess you could say. And then my mother and I came together when I was 15. Did one of those, for those of you who are old enough to remember the movie, If It's Tuesday, This Must Be Belgium. It was one of those trips in a tagged onto spending about a month with family in the UK. And one thing I remember from that experience at 15 was that I never, ever, ever wanted to travel like that again, where I only saw a country for a day or a day and a half. So with my daughter getting ready to graduate from college, I realized that this was my good opportunity to start traveling again. And that's how and my work is designed so that most of the year I could be anywhere while I'm doing my work. So I decided to start off first in Ecuador. And that's the first place I landed in March. And as you know, what else happened in March of 2020? The world started closing down as a result of COVID. So my first year, I'd only intended to spend 3 weeks in Ecuador, left after 13 months, and then I've been traveling pretty much ever since. So, okay, let me see if another question from the group. Here's another one that was sent in advance. How did you start Digital Nomads Beyond 50? Well, short answer is that while I was in Ecuador, I stumbled upon a website for digital nomads for co-living, co-work. And it's a very large organization, very well established, and they were posting with the hope of filling a space in Colombia, which was the second country I'd planned to go to. And so I filled out an online application. And one of the questions in the application was to click to show where on the sliding scale your age group was. And as soon as I clicked the maximum, which was 45 plus, and I'm way beyond 45, it popped up saying, "Thank you very much for your interest, but we're not really equipped to handle this age group at this time, but we'll keep you in mind." And since it was COVID and everybody had a lot of time in their hands, they still went through with the Zoom interview with me, and I asked them, well, why is it that you have such a low age limit? As far as I'm concerned, it was low. And they had a good response to that. And I said, well, if that's the case, then I think I might start my own Facebook group and maybe get a group of people together who are interested in doing a co-live, who are in the midlife age range. And that is how I started October 2020. And we built up to fully launch the group. Hey, John. Hi, Siobhan. Long time no see. Yes, I remember you from our Flower Mound Highland Village days. We'd love to keep up with the adventures of you, and let's see, click to see more. Please consider nomading to Columbia, Missouri. We just empty nest and have room to put us up. All righty, John. So you have left, you're able to move. Excellent, excellent. So I'm so glad that you're joining us, John. Nice to see a familiar face from Highland Village, which is the suburbs that I lived in before moving downtown Dallas. So please stay on and continue with your questions as well. So as I said, I started Digital Nomads Beyond 50 October 2020, and then pulling from my corporate training and organizational development background, I also hosted a 3-day summit in June of 2021 to really kick off the group. We had 28 speakers and 32 subjects, because some of our speakers did two subjects, and we had breakout rooms where people can get together and talk, and that was really the true launch of the group at that time. And our first co-live, co-work was supposed to be in Medellin. And we started off as a co-live, co-work, and then because of the need that was expressed at that time, more people in the group wanted to learn how to start being a digital nomad as compared to those who were already digital nomads. So once again, from my training and organizational development background, I put together the Digital Nomad Beyond 50 Life Map. And we have Jackie. Hi, hugs to you as well too. And so we did that first in Medellin, and then we did that in Lisbon, and now we're moving that to a digital platform as well as possibly offering it in live locations like Medellin or Lisbon. One of the things that we came I really have developed a passion for helping people become digital nomads. And it's transformed my life as well as I've seen it transform, the participants and others, even within our group. And I really wanted to extend that to more people and give more people the opportunity. Not everybody has either the time or the means to, fly out of the country and attend a retreat. So we're working on launching a digital group that will be dedicated. It'll be kind of like a subgroup of this group. Nomad LifeMap, it will be that group. And it'll be a subgroup of this dedicated just to people who are in the planning stage. I call them explorer digital nomads as compared to experience. For the experience, we're going to start doing a live, not live, but yes, you will be live because it's going to be a co-live, co-work. Hopefully you had an opportunity to vote on some locations. I'm going to be following up soon with some updates on that. But next year, we will finally do a co-live, co-work for the experienced digital nomads who can be with us for a month or so. Okay, let's see, more questions here. Excellent. Okay, we've got a couple more. What was my most difficult experience while being a digital nomad? Well, I'd have to say that's landing in the hospital for 5 days in Medellin, Colombia, was probably my most difficult experience as a digital nomad. There was one night before I was admitted to the hospital at the insistence of the guest house hospitality staff who came to check on me, and they said, we need to get you to the hospital fast. I had apparently defrosted ceviche. You do not defrost ceviche in a microwave. It'll give you E. coli. Take it from me. And that's what landed me in the hospital. That was probably my scariest and most challenging experience as a digital nomad. You're in the hospital and you're in a foreign country. And luckily it happened to be Colombia, which, by the way, based on the World Health Organization, has a higher rated health care system than the United States, Canada, or Australia. So, and I can tell you for a fact, that was a very good experience that I had there. So, yes, continuing on. Let's see, more questions here. Okay, excellent. And I'll take some from here. Okay, please explain what is a co-live, co-work? Well, that's a good question. And especially if, something got unplugged. Don't want to run out of power in the process, right? A co-live, co-work is really when, for those who have already experienced or been living as a digital nomad, a great majority of us are not doing this as a couple. We're solo. Yeah, I don't forget. I see that question about dating coming up, so I haven't forgotten that. So we're not doing that as a couple. We are doing it pretty much solo. And even for somebody who is as socially oriented as I am, I used to have a meetup group here in Dallas of 1,500 members. And I hosted 2 events, and sometimes some of them travel events, for 9 years. But even me, who is kind of off the charts social, gets hit by the feeling of the social isolation of being a digital nomad. I love, love, love my life. Let me get that clear. But it can be socially isolating. So a co-live, co-work is when people who are working remote, they're digital nomads, get together at a particular location to share a location, an abode, that also provides everything that you need to be able to co-work, great Wi-Fi, all of that. But it also, because you're still going to be doing your work, whatever you need to, and you'll have, your privacy, or whether it's privacy or communal area to work, whichever you choose, to work. But at the same time, when you're knocking off work, you're getting together with other digital nomads, going out to eat, maybe seeing more of the city that you happen to be in, that type of thing. So there is that social element. And they typically, and the reason why they're designed for experienced digital nomads is because they're typically a month long. Actually, a lot of them are a month, the minimum of a month. Then you might add on another month, 2 or 3 months. And that's because, the whole point is to create a community during that period of time. And hopefully that community extends out with you when you leave. So that is what a co-live, co-work is. And I keep saying experienced digital nomads. We are more than happy to have those who are exploring join us if you are in a position to commit to a month or at least 3 weeks to a month. So that is what a co-live, co-work is. And I have been on those types of experiences. The first one that I experienced was in Romania, and in Sibiu, Romania, and in an interestingly named the Transylvania co-live, co-work, and it was excellent experience. And I've also been on what you could call as a co-live, co-work and conference, which is the Nomad Cruise. I did the Nomad Cruise in 2023, which was their first year cruising after they had to stop for COVID. And that was a wonderful experience as well too. So I hope that clarifies what a co-live, co-work is. Let's see, more questions here. Okay, most challenging thing about my life is, as I said, social interaction, social isolation. One of the things, I'll give this tip for folks, is that I find that I've really enjoyed, hopefully it's a city where Internations is an organization that I've been a member of for, at this point, probably about 15 years, because it was 10 years before I started traveling, nomad traveling, and then I've been a member since then. And as a result of this organization, some chapters are very, very active. The Dallas chapter is very active. There's at least 2 events being hosted every month. And that's when people from all over the world who happen to be living or visiting Dallas from other countries as well. Like when I was in Amsterdam, I looked up to see what Internations was doing during the 3 weeks to 4 weeks that I was there. And from the day I arrived, I literally arrived at 5:30 in the morning, and 6 o'clock that night, I was bowling with about 15 to 16 people in Amsterdam, because that was an Internation event that was happening on the same day that I arrived, and I wasn't going to miss it. And by the end of the week of that, my first week, I was hosting an event as well. So, and I've also have hosted events in Medellin, because I've spent quite a bit of time in Medellin, Colombia as well too. So that's one of the things that one can do to deal with the social isolation as well. If you can't be a part of a co-live, co-work, then you can also be a part. Let's see, do we have anyone in the audience who wants to verbally state their questions, or or whatever? Nobody? Anybody not camera shy? Okay, we'll continue with these questions here. Um, okay, the life map retreat. The life map retreat that sometimes you might have seen mentioned in a post here and there, or if you scroll back into the history, the life map retreat is the the course, or it's not, I can't say that it's a course because it really is an experience. A lot of people shape, show me how to become a digital nomad, show me how to do. No, it doesn't happen that way. No one can teach you to be a digital nomad. This is a very, very personal experience and journey, and it is constantly evolving. What the life map does is help people to focus on their areas of readiness. There, it's designed to address and help people to focus down on four areas of readiness. There is logistical readiness, there is financial readiness, there is also emotional, as well as physical readiness. And not everybody is going to need the same level of not improvement, but leveling up, you could say, in any of these levels of readiness. They're not going to need the same. Some people will need more financial to before they can start, or they need to deal with more logistics. When I talk about logistics, an example is, what do you do to your stuff? What do you do with your, with your parents if you have elderly parents, and or what do you do with your kids, your adult kids who haven't somehow managed to launch yet? Luckily, that was not my issue. My parents are both deceased and my daughter is well launched. But so that's what I mean. Logistics was not my issue. My primary logistics was getting rid of my stuff. So, but other people have other types of logistics. So when somebody joined us and I'm very proud to say that we had one member in Medellin, who that was the first time that she got her passport to leave the United States to come to the Life Map. And the same thing with our group that got together in Lisbon. So it really is a transforming experience. And it took me a while to find the right platform to host it on when we're going to do a digital version of it, because one of the most important things that all of the participants say that they got out of attending was during those 8 days, there was 5 days for the 1 day each for the levelness, and the fifth day was the make it happen day, and that was when people shared their plan for the next year or so to create their life as a digital nomad that they were taking with them. That's the point. You come without a plan. Maybe you come with a dream to become a digital nomad, but you're going to definitely leave with a plan of action. So, but when we just had community, community came together, and people had the opportunity to really share. That's what I mean when I say it is a very personal experience, which is why it's not going to be hosted here in the Facebook group, because it's an opportunity for people to sometimes share some very personal things. And so we're creating a very, as I said, dedicated community for those who are planning, but also a private community for those who are planning. So let's see. Any other questions? Let me look and see if there's anything here. Yes, I mentioned about transforming my life with travel. I had been to 36 countries because I lived as our family at that time. We lived in London for 2 years. And during that period of time, my daughter, who is now 27, but she was 2 and came back to the United States. We very reluctantly came back to the United States when she was 4 years old, the three of us. At that time, I was married. And And she had been to 24 countries by the time she was 4 years old. So you can see this was a family that really, really loved traveling. And so, I'm just continuing that way. And there were periods of time in between all of that that was kind of dark. There were some very personal things that happened, divorce, I had a business, had a bankruptcy, all of that led me to think very much at one point in my life that, well, I am really standing on scorched earth right now. I have imploded my life, and it was very dark. And I certainly didn't think that I would come to this point in my life where I can say, I am living my best life. I am really enjoying myself as I'm traveling, and I just want to be able to help other people do the same thing as well. It's become my passion and my mission. I love the work that I do as a health insurance agent. This is my third career. I love the work that I do, but the passion for this, as far as our group and helping people launch their life, is what really lights me up. Okay, before I can be a digital nomad, I need to find a way to close up my 2 year unemployment. Ah, what do you mean close up? Meaning get a new job, or I'm waiting for you to respond. 2 years of unemployment. Well, okay, while I'm waiting for you to respond, one of the things that I can tell you, find a job. Yes. Well, I hope that what you're looking for is a job that is remote because, believe it or not, there's still a lot of that's out there and available to a lot of people. And so one of the things that that's one of the things that we talk about. That's part of the financial readiness. Sometimes it's people who have, as a result of COVID, they've decided, life is too short to continue doing this job. I'm taking my 401k and I'm going to start something new, something that I can do remotely and something that I feel very passionate about. And then there's some people, it is a matter of, well, I've lost my job during COVID, and how do I begin? I'll tell you that one of the things that has helped my financial recovery is being a digital nomad, because spending less and less time out of the United States, I've saved money with this life. A lot of, my friends who are very close and they feel that they can ask me the question and they know the history of the bankruptcy and everything else. They say, how can you afford to do this? And I said, it's almost like you can't afford not to, because I am saving money compared to, living in a loft downtown Dallas. And, there are some months where I am not even spending as much as what I was paying in rent. Just rent. I'm not talking about the electricity, the water, the Wi-Fi connection and all of that. I am talking about just the rent. There are some months that I am able to live on just less than what I paid in rent. So that's what I mean when I say it can be, and I know that there are a lot of digital nomads who frankly are leaving the United States because they can't afford to retire there. So they figured, well, why don't I be just maybe not even a digital nomad? They don't feel that they need to they're in a position where they don't have to work, but most definitely being a nomadic life. And that is also what we will focus on with the Nomad LifeMap. Those who are new to a nomadic life, whether they're choosing to work during this period of time, or whether they just want to plan a nomadic retirement. But you might be surprised how much your money can stretch when you're not trying to stretch it in the States. Okay. I begun to question what I'm qualified to do after I've worked remotely since 2009, and I've begun to question what I'm qualified to do after this long. Well, depends on what type of work have you been working remotely doing? Is it something that you can, as long as you got good internet access and possibly a VPN, which is what I have to use for my work? For those who may not be familiar, virtual personal network is a VPN. Some websites may not give you access unless you it appear to be in the United States. So I've worked remotely since 2009. So what type of work have you been doing? Let's see if we can maybe come up with a new job for you. Okay, you're still working on that question. So at any rate, that is the Life Map retreat was when we did it physically. As I said, in Medellin or in and when we did it in Portugal. And then we also are looking at uh, as I said before, having the online school, SKOOL, which will be Nomad LifeMap. And that is for people who are planning to launch their life as a digital nomad or launch their life of nomadic retirement. Okay, software developer primarily for warehouse control. Well, that seems like that might be quite adaptable. Did one of the things that you might want to start trying is, John, is, during COVID, a lot of people did what I call home country nomading. And that is, they were nomading within the United States, either in a camper or a trailer, camper trailer and that type of thing. Or they just simply drove and stayed and, rented wherever they decided to go to. And they rented for a period of time when they arrived. And that is for some people, to just pick up and, like, go to another country is a major leap, and that's understandable. You can take baby steps to make this happen. I know that one of the things that we talked about at one point in Life Map is just simply because sometimes for some people, particularly women, post divorce, they've never even been on a holiday without their spouse. So one of the baby steps is just simply go to the next state. Find someplace interesting in the next state. Fly there or drive there and spend time by yourself exploring a new city in the next state. You will find that freedom and the enjoyment of doing that will grow to wanting to expand it beyond the United States. But even if you don't want to expand beyond the United States, you can still be a nomad, a home country nomad, and still enjoy discovering places throughout the United States as well too. So, yeah, but software developer, engineer, I'm sure that if you post your question, John, into the main group, I'm sure there's quite a few of our members who might be able to give you a hand with that. I am not on the software development side. I kind of lucked into my work being remote because, frankly, when I started thinking that would, live this nomadic life, I thought that I was going to have to find a different job. But within a year or so, the work that I was doing with health insurance expanded very quickly to the point where we were doing all of our applications online or had the option to do all of our applications online. I know some people still do the paper pen application, but me, I'm doing everything online right here from wherever I happen to be. So, what other questions? Let's see. Let me see if I've covered everything that came in before. Yeah, okay. Um, I did mention about the life map on school, the challenges. Yeah, and I did say that somebody asked me, well, talking about social isolation, what about, dating and that type of part of one's life while you're traveling? Well, I'll tell you, it is more of a challenge when you are traveling, when you are living nomadically. There are actually some apps. They haven't really been quite successful yet, but I do know that some apps had come out and come and gone, trying to connect no digital nomads for more personal relationships. I point to my hero in this particular area, and that is, and you can also send her a question. She's one of our group experts, is Cindy Sheehan, and she has been written up in Time, New York Times, and Business Week, and a lot for her particular experience of finding love as a digital nomad. And when I interviewed her for when we had the summit, she was one of our guest speakers for the summit in 2020, virtual summit in 2021. I asked her how was it that she found this relationship, which, by the way, is now 7 years long, and she met that person on Tinder. So, I know that a lot of people had thought, Tinder, isn't that a hookup site? Which is what I asked her. I said, isn't that a hookup site? And she says, not when you're beyond 50. It's not quite that. So, but yes, Tinder and Bumble are both sites that will also travel with your location. Or you can put your location, let's say I was in Johannesburg. I'm just giving a hypothetical situation here. I was in Johannesburg, and I knew that I went to Morocco. But while I was in Morocco, I knew that my next stop was going to be Amsterdam. So I changed my location to Amsterdam, and in advance of me arriving in Amsterdam, so at least had an opportunity to chat with people, get to know, who he is or what he is, or do I want to know him anymore type of questions virtually, because these apps, you can have a virtual visit with someone. And so by the time I got to Amsterdam, there was, some possibilities to check out. So if you want to know more, come to the Life Map School, because that's what I talk about. That's when we talk about those more personal things that are a part of digital nomad life. But that's about as far as I'm going to go with this one for right now. What other questions do we have? Let's see. Any other questions? Thank all of you who have joined us online. Let's see. Do we have another question? Or are we ready to wrap this up? I think we've covered everything that I know of. And unless you have some burning questions that let's see, that we haven't covered yet, then I'm just going to say thank you all for being members of Digital Nomad Beyond 50 Network. We are so happy to have you here, and I'm glad you found us. At this point, even though we are the first Facebook group dedicated to midlife, we're not the largest, and there's a reason for that. We tend to be somewhat selective and very watchful of our membership, because we want to make sure that this is not a super group, but an engaged group. So never feel uncomfortable about asking a question in this group. This is a safe place to ask your questions and hopefully get your answers. Thanks again. I really appreciate you being here.